All right, we should be live.
Alrighty, welcome back to the Stream of Truth. I am Dr. Tassel Faith Shamebrook,
And I'm Sean Kelly.
and today we are on episode 9, and it's a really exciting topic. Your spiritual awakening and 10 signs of your awakening.
Yeah. These are the 10 that we could come up with. There are more, probably, that we didn't think of.
Yes, and these are not and these are not necessarily, the top 10. There may be other ones that are equally as important, but these are the 10 that flowed through us as we were preparing.
We did try to set them up as sort of the first few are sort of what we considered to be foundational. And then the last few are meant to, I think, sort of help us affirm our sanity and stuff too. So that's sort of how I see it. Like, we're foundationally what's sort of occurring, and then the various stages we sort of go through, at least in our experience and experience we've had of our clients and people we've talked to, etc.
Yes, and like anything we share, a lot of this is our own experience, our own understanding, and like everything, just run everything through your own guidance and how it feels for you.
Absolutely. So should I start then with number 1?
Please start, Sean.
All right.
Kelly.
All right.
Wizard.
So basically, the first thing is that most likely, if you're watching this video, if you've been drawn to consume this type of content, you're either already awakening or will at some point awaken. This will be drawn to you through, you could call it the law of attraction. An aspect of self is seeking a knowing of the world about it, starting to feel out of alignment. So there's an aspect within the self that's calling for this type of information, or you wouldn't be here, basically. So it's most likely at some point you're going to experience this, or you have already, and this video may help you to put a little bit of a framework around what's occurring with you, if you haven't been invited to these concepts before as well. So just the fact that you're watching is a good sign, I would say. That's a really good sign in itself.
And I'm curious, Sean, for you, say at the beginning of your awakening process, were you drawn to certain videos, books, etc.?
Yeah, so when I first started to awaken, I was drawn to a lot of Zen teachings, Buddhism, and Eckhart Tolle and stuff like that. But I didn't know about awakening. What I was starting to see was the separate self inside the negative-oriented belief structures. At the time, I just noted, I called it the angry roommate or something. But and I think I got that from Eckhart or someone. So I started to be drawn to those materials, which then sort of set the foundational understanding of some of what's happening in my consciousness outside of a spiritual perspective, just sort of a more esoteric understanding that I didn't fully believe or not believe, but it seemed to explain my understanding of my perception a bit better. Then I moved... Then I had my big awakening, and all of that stuff then started to feel like obvious to me. So I started to read some writings, and I would be like, yeah, I mean, obviously. And so I wasn't getting anything from sort of Eckhart's teachings anymore. It's not that they weren't resonating, they were resonating, but they're resonating to a degree that it felt like I wrote the book. So it shifted for me. So I started to call for deeper understandings, and that's when I got introduced to the Law of One. So that's just to illustrate that we call what we need in the moment to facilitate our learning.
Yes.
And that's where this point comes from, is
Yes.
basically that's why this video came about, your awareness.
Yes. And it's interesting when I think back about in regards to this question, I kept having the words Akashic records kept coming into my consciousness. And I didn't really even know much about the Akashic records. And it just this energetic dimension where everything that has been felt, thought, or done is stored, and where you can really access past lives and things like that. And so I did follow that guidance, and I ended up seeking out someone who could help me enter the Akashic records. And so I think one of the points here is that just to really follow what seems to be coming up in your guidance on this journey.
Right.
It's almost, we talk about the word breadcrumbs, like there are these breadcrumbs, these little hints on this mysterious adventure that we're on.
And just to expand on yours, didn't you then also have that experience and then start to call for, you eventually had an awareness that, oh, I can do this myself, right?
Yes.
And
yes.
And then so you expanded that learning, right? So we call in what we need in those moments. So at that time, you sort of needed someone to model it, to see it and to experience it a bit, and then you're like, okay, I could do that, right?
Yes. And what was really beautiful is this amazing woman who helped me access the records. I'd love to have her on the show. Her name is Carrie Wilkerson. She's so amazing. She, after a few sessions, suggested to me, oh, why don't we go in together and I can just help you become more comfortable. And to me, that felt like spirit guiding me that, this is something that you can do too. So just following all of these messages and suggestions and invitations, it's just like everything is laid out for us. We really just have to follow the guidance. Yeah.
And if we're more towards a period of like, we see something come in that's a little bit mysterious and whatever, and we notice that we just go, that's nonsense, and throw it away immediately. Those are often like the best breadcrumbs that we're just a little too programmed in that area.
Yes.
So we're dismissing that entirely really quickly. Those are often like the biggest breadcrumbs that we're sort of just not noticing.
Yes. Yes. And it'll most likely keep coming in until we pay more attention.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. As long as exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So do you want to do number 2?
Okay. Number 2. So we're saying that one of the first few steps that you may experience in your awakening journey is this sense that decisions you have made about your life, relationships that you are in, overall situations that you are in may start to really feel off. You may really not resonate with all of it. And just even question, why did I make that decision? Why am I in this relationship? What am I doing in this situation? And you may have had some disharmony in all of these situations previously, but it was sort of manageable and you weren't paying that much attention to it. But now the volume of the disharmony has really leveled up, and it's starting to feel very uncomfortable. The life that you are currently in, it doesn't feel like you. It does not feel aligned.
Yeah. And so I think I wanted to talk a little bit about what's happening energetically there, just so people can understand what's happening.
Yes.
You could within the self there are 2 sort of structures of belief systems. One could be a positive belief system, which is expansive, infinite. It's about choice and is based in love. And then there's the negative belief system, which is restrictive, no choice, and it's based in rigor and structure, and is judgment and rationalizing things through presumptions and various labeling, that type of thing. That's the negative belief structure. And so what's happening here is what's called dynamic tension, where the what's happened is as you awaken, the light that you're bringing in becomes, you get sort of, you could call it more, you're becoming aware of more of the creation. You're becoming aware of more of the creation. So you've always had the light coming through you, but you're just becoming less distorted in all of it. So you're receiving more of it, I guess, in your experience. And so what this causes is a very easy time noticing things that are not in harmony. Whereas before, it felt safe, or felt, it may not have always felt, there usually is a portion of us that knows that this kind of probably isn't what we want to do, but we explain that away really, really easily. Then as we awaken, we can't explain it away so easily. We can't ignore the pull to not be doing the thing we're doing. And we can basically resist that. We talked about this yesterday. All these things that are not in alignment, we resist changing them because part of us wonders if we've just lost our mind, which we'll talk more about that later, because everything you thought you knew and planned for suddenly doesn't make that much sense. It's suddenly you're sort of like, it could feel like everything that you were doing was pointless. You wasted your time, things like that as well. A lot of like regret and stuff. So we'll talk more about the crazy part, but basically, yeah, you're seeing the disharmony, seeing the disharmony in yourself more clearly, because you're awake now, or awakening. You sort of start to rise from slumber. You're groggy and trying to get your bearings is sort of what's happening, and that period can last. It could be 6 months, or it could be, 10 years or 20 years, 30 years. So it all depends on that person's experience and their path. But actually, I would say, in the third density, like in the human experience, it's probably continual till the end of that experience in third density, until graduation. You're probably in the process of awakening some phase of it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Awesome. Do you want to share point or sign number 3?
Oh yeah, sure. Some thoughts or concerns that you may be crazy. So, basically, depending on the degree in which you question your own sanity, the more it will reflect in your external environment. So, it really depends on the orientation of the person, and how much they hold on to the very structured nature of reality, that of like the materialistic scientific model, things like that. Depending on that type of orientation, you can feel like you've lost your mind, because all the things you did not believe suddenly seem more true, but you still hold the belief that it's not real, because you've empowered that a lot. So both, you have these opposed belief structures now. One is the positive belief structure that is expansive and infinite, and then the other one is a negative belief structure that, oh no, I'm just a person, I'm just a body, and when I die, I just decompose, and that's it. And so you have these like diametrically opposed belief structures that start to battle. And yeah, so depending on where you land in that, and how you express your what you're experiencing to others, what ends up happening a lot of the time is, because we all seek validation, we seek someone to express these experiences to, which is an indication of our lack of belief in our sanity. And so often we'll get responses from others to validate our thought of us being not sane or crazy or whatever, right? So we invite these opportunities because we're seeking approval from Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
We're seeking approval from others because we want others to agree with us so that we can be like, look, Sally agrees and Joe agrees, so okay, maybe I got this. But then we go to Sally and Sally's like, oh, no, you should probably take medication. And then Joe goes, you should see my psychiatrist, and gives you a referral or something, right?
Yes.
So
I want to share a lot of what you're saying, is that I think so much of what is challenging is you can feel so out of step with everyone else.
Yeah.
When I went through the beginning of this process, I didn't know anyone else who was experiencing what I was experiencing. And so I just felt so different. Everyone else just seems normal. They're just going about life as normal. I feel so different. There must be something wrong with me. Everyone else seems fine.
Yeah.
And then what you said about, because I think I was so used to looking towards external validation and external direction, I would talk a lot about what I was experiencing with people around me, and they had no idea what I was talking about and did think there might be some mental health issues going on. And it kept coming in that I needed to go on medication.
Yep.
And I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know that I was in a spiritual awakening. I thought, okay, maybe I'm just really depressed. Maybe there's something hormonal going on with me. But there was an inner knowing within me that absolutely medication did not seem like the path. There was a guidance I could feel that was, keep feeling your truth, keep feeling your feelings, keep being awake and conscious and not numbed by medication. And as you were saying, so much of this journey is about having the courage to rely on our own guidance and our own sovereignty in this matter and in all matters. And at the end of the day, I am the authority on my sanity. I am the authority on what is happening with me. No one external to me.
Yeah. And I just wanted to, you said something that was interesting about feeling different from everyone. So we'll see this infinite uniqueness show itself in multiple areas. Just if we think of a human, like our iris, I think it's called the iris. These are infinitely unique.
Yes.
Fingerprints,
Yes.
DNA, and as well as our entire being and the way we perceive everything is infinitely unique. So one of the purposes of seeing, oh, I'm so different from everyone, is because we are different from everyone.
Yes. Right.
And everyone is different from each other. They're not as samey as you think they are.
Yes.
The sameness is the labels that's been applied to people.
The sameness is the societal programming to almost force us all to be the same, studying the same things in school, looking the same.
Exactly.
A lot of time. So that's like really almost a new idea that, oh, actually, I am completely unique. I may dress completely unique from someone and think completely unique, and my life is completely
and what's happening is we're noticing we're not of this sameness. We're not of this sameness. Yes. And so we notice that, and then because we believe we're supposed to be a part of the sameness, we get upset.
It's unsettling.
In some way. Yeah. We feel alienated, or we feel, whatever it is.
Yes. So it's almost like this part of the journey is your initiation into your unique, magnificent self. To understand that you are unique. To
embrace your uniqueness, basically. And especially the things that make you unique. Those are the things that are to be celebrated.
Absolutely. Those are often what I like to call like your genius zone. Are the really unique abilities of your
and if you look back on your experience, you'll have clear areas that you just excel in that maybe you didn't think in the past were of any real value, but that was due to programming, like negative beliefs.
And it's interesting how sameness, seems very destabilizing to the society. Or sorry, I'm sorry, uniqueness. It seems that there's some comfort that the collective mind takes in sameness. If we're all the same, feel safer or something.
Yeah, there's a cynical undercurrent of the way that laws are created.
Yes.
That sort of presumes that humans require direction to be to work in harmony with each other, when it's really the opposite.
It's the opposite. The harmony comes from each person being this unique part of the puzzle, a mosaic.
The harmony comes from free synergistic expression.
Yes.
And the stricture creates distortion in people because they don't feel free, and then they act out in various ways. So it's the stricture that causes the acting out,
problem,
which we see as violence or whatever.
Or we term it ADHD in the schools and things like that.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. It's all the rules and structure and labeling that causes us to.
You just need to fit in and sit down.
Yeah. Basically. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Is it my turn? Number 4?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think so. Yeah. 4.
Okay. So you may start to ask yourself, if the life that I've created so far doesn't feel aligned, correct, resonant at this point, then what am I supposed to do? Like, I guess there's something else that's calling me. There's a new path that must be on the horizon. And well, we kind of just talked about it, but you will probably become aware of not all necessarily, but layers of your societal programming that, I created this life because my parents encouraged me to go down this route, my teachers, my colleagues, my friends. But was I really listening to my inner voice, my own intuition, my own deep desires for my life? Or was I just sort of following these dictates from the external?
Yeah.
So this really interesting experience of, oh my gosh, this does not seem to be what I want. And oh my gosh, what do I want? And what is in my heart? And what is important to me? So this exploration, the starting of the exploration of yourself, really.
Yeah. And eventually I wanted to add this just to show there's like a light at the end of that tunnel, because that tunnel is a little confusing when you're there. There is a light there where you eventually look back and notice, at least this is what we've seen, is that your past experience becomes very referent or important to what you're about to do in some way. So it could be some sort of trauma survivor who begins to talk about their experience, or it could be that you realize that you always loved playing music, never thought you could do it in front of people or in some sort of real way. You just did it for yourself or something, or whatever. It could be anything. But generally, you've built these skills, or you've built a skill without perhaps even being aware that it's a skill, or that it's unique to your experience and that it has a value in it that you can share. So you sort of eventually become aware of that, and then usually all of your past experience becomes sort of obviously connected to what you're doing in this moment, or
Yes. So what you're saying is, during this stage, you may feel that, oh my gosh, what have I been doing my whole life? This is not me, and I don't even really want to continue with it. But what you're saying is, you'll see eventually, usually there's so much value in all of the experiences that you have had.
Yeah.
Though you may not want to continue them, they have provided so much fodder and expansion, and may be very connected to what you do end up doing.
Yeah. There's usually some connection, right?
some uh, treasure in all of those past experiences that
Yeah.
may no longer feel resonant. Yeah, totally. Um, okay, number 5.
Yeah. So that's me, right?
That's you.
You may experience a push and pull between two separate personalities within yourself. So I talked about this a little bit. Negative and positive belief structures. That's sort of the best way to think about it. You can start to feel like there's sort of two people inside of you. There's the optimistic side of you, or the side of you that's choosing positivity and choosing expansion. And then there's a side of you that's trying to choose negativity and fear, that's powered up through the negative belief structures. And so what we end up doing is experiencing both of these in a conflict where there's an awareness that the thing that you've been choosing isn't what you want to be doing. We talked about this earlier, but you can experience almost dialogues, right? Like of clearly different orientations within yourself. And it eventually starts to feel like, yeah, you have maybe twins inside of you that are like bickering, like a light and a dark twin or something, right?
And I don't know if you would conceptualize it this way, but for me, I kind of think of what you're saying about my egoic thinking mind versus, I like to call it my heart mind.
Yeah.
That's for me an easy way to break it down. Like my egoic mind, it can be so negative and fearful, and it loves to rationalize and judge and compare and all that. Then my heart mind, so like open and free, and let's do what really we feel passionate about. We're fully supported by the universe. So these two, yeah,
that's a good way to look at it. I have this understanding that humans don't fully get ego, and so I've often spoke of ego and still do, but I believe that ego is also the positive belief structure.
Yeah.
So ego is any belief, any belief structure at all.
Okay.
I believe. So that's the only reason I shied away from that term. But I'm glad you brought it up so I could sort of make that distinction. Because the positive belief structure is still the same sort of thing, but it's coming from a positive source, which could be the heart, right? It's coming from an openness.
Yeah.
So yeah, but it still is an egoic belief structure, like something like a belief around, like, let's say I am expansive, right? This is a belief about yourself and and a part of your personality's identity, which would still be ego. Ego is identity in all form.
Right.
So yeah, it's just that's why I try to form it like positive belief structure, negative belief structure. Some people might know of it as the House of Christus or the House of Ego. I'm not sure where the House of Ego came from. It may have come from this woman who channeled and did some ascension teachings. She did them maybe like 10 or 15 years ago or something. And she has some really interesting stuff. I think she maybe brought that through. But basically, like you're like taking down the old house and building a new house with new belief structures that are positive, but both are ego.
Yeah. It's almost like in the way I was describing it, you could say the positive mind and the negative mind.
Yeah. And then when we have the positive belief structures after we've adopted it, we then have more issues with it, because when we don't adhere to that belief structure, or we perceive that we've not held our own belief, we then chastise ourselves and feel guilty. So like if I say I'm peaceful and loving to all, and then I'm in a line at Wendy's and I get in an argument with a guy because he spills my Frosty, or something. I don't know, who knows. Let's say that happens. You know, and then after I walk away from that and go, oh my God, I was so unconscious. I was not peaceful. I was not loving with this interaction. And I would chastise myself, right?
Yeah.
So that's part of, because of the identification with the concept of being peaceful.
Yes.
And it's not accepting the opposite polarity of peaceful, unpeaceful. And so we build the positive belief structure to eventually realize the belief structures themselves aren't super necessary, and then we, you know, move beyond those types of things and form probably a new mechanism there. But I'm not sure how that could describe that in higher densities.
Yeah. So basically saying that you may feel this inner conflict, tension between positive beliefs that are seeming to be more present, and these more older fear-based beliefs that we've been programmed into. Okay.
Kind of like if you're really trying to work on your diet, you're really trying to have a good job with your diet, and somebody offers you like a plate of like maybe some fruits and veggies and a plate of like cookies and, you know, some treats or something, or brownies. And you're like really struggling between which one. You know, the one that feels best for you, but you also know you feel the desire of almost equal proportions to just take the brownies or whatever, right? You can, it's that type of thing where you're like, I don't even know what to do. And then often we revert to the comfort, which would be the brownie.
It's almost like we're in a way weaning ourselves off of that default belief structure that we've been programmed into,
which causes it to decay. Awesome.
Okay, am I up?
6.
Okay, so number 6, we have as the experience of the dark night of the soul. Such a great, dramatic.
When I first heard that, I was like, that is a really good way to describe what I'm going through. Yeah, it's
so poetic and sounds so powerful. So I think we all are familiar with this term. And it feels like this is this time period really orchestrated by spirit for you to go through, so that you can feel lots of stuff that has probably been suppressed throughout your lifetime with these new eyes, this clarity of this expanded consciousness that you're now in.
That's a really good way to put it.
So again, you may have had glimpses of feeling these feelings in the past, but you didn't really go deep, and you didn't have this new conscious awareness that you have now. So I think that's why it can be painful, this dark night, because you're going in there, and it's not always comfortable. And then, to me at least, part of the journey of the dark night is the uncertainty. Well, I'm in this. Where the heck is this leading? And when will it end? It's all unknowable. It's like you're in a dark train tunnel, and you can't see the light at the end of the tunnel, and you're like sort of crawling around, not knowing exactly what you're doing. So it's intense. And we talked about this, that it also, in my experience, maybe yours too, I feel I went through multiple dark nights of the soul over the past 10 years. The first one in 2012, after it seemed like I woke up, was definitely the most intense and I think longest. But then since then, there have been additional, I would say shorter, somewhat less intense experiences of the same thing, where again, it felt like everything was falling away, and there was a lot I needed to excavate within myself, and there was a lot of uncertainty about my path. But it seems like when you do reach the light at the end of the tunnel, in my experience at least, there so much clarity comes through about the path. And part of the way I think of that is that I just cleared a ton of energy within myself that I kind of needed to focus on. And now that has moved through me. And now I can really feel the guidance coming through about the next step. It's like the dawn has come. The dark night has ended, and now the light, the clarity, the dawn of this new path has arisen.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of those cycles, the best way to describe it is like sort of the deeper they are, the more likely you probably will approach it in stages. The deeper the belief structure that is going to be looked at, basically, because to look at it all at once would just be too traumatic, more or less. The person would more or less probably go nuts. So to make sure that there's a proper time for integration of the lessons of what we're seeing, that's sort of what the Dark Night of the Soul is. It's integration. And because the person doesn't usually at that stage fully comprehend what they're doing, it takes a long time. So as we get more practiced at realizing, oh, I feel bad, I need to really look at this, those times get shorter and shorter because we get more effective at doing the integration work, and we'll chip away at the belief structure. So we can have an awakening and realize a certain thing, and then dissolve some of that belief in an integration period or the Dark Night of the Soul, come out of that, feel a lot better, and then we'll usually have like a resting period, but then eventually we look back at that issue because it's still there. We only took a chunk away, and we see the new layers that we didn't see before, the deeper layers of it, and then we'll address those layers, and then so we can experience multiple cycles of it, depending on just what we've brought with us so far.
And I want to talk about two little things here. One is, so would we say that the Dark Night of the Soul is a lot about feeling what's coming up, and then also really seeing with clarity the beliefs that we are holding that we may not want to hold anymore? Sort of those two as the foundations of the Dark Night.
Yeah, because
feelings and the beliefs.
Yeah, what we'll find during the Dark Night usually is that we seek something external to solve the problem. Like, that's what we've been taught our whole lives. A teacher or a therapist or somebody. And I'm not saying don't go to people for help, but we will try to find books, we'll research stuff. A lot of times what we'll find during the Dark Night of the Soul is that those things don't really get us anywhere. Or they may help just a little bit here and there. And what really helps is us really processing what is happening in us. Like, what are we feeling? Why are we feeling these things?
Yes.
Not,
and that,
just not directing that uncomfortableness to just do things.
Yes. The experience of spiritual bypass sort of comes to mind.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That I'll do a lot of yoga.
Yeah.
Or I'll join this spiritual group and blah blah, like just doing a lot of things around spirituality and around personal growth.
Mm-hmm.
But we may not be getting really within and doing that deep excavation work of feeling and what beliefs am I holding.
Yeah, we're essentially trying to consume our attention with other more pleasant things.
Yes, if I do this practice, that maybe that will help.
Yeah, and then we think, maybe it'll help all this feeling go away.
Yes.
But the feeling has to be felt.
Feeling the feeling, that's going to move you
The
forward.
feeling stays until it's felt.
Exactly.
So.
And another point I wanted to just bring up about having multiple dark nights of the soul in this process is that, for instance, when we came together, I feel it activated in me a bit of a dark night of the soul, because of our interactions, it helped me look at a whole nother set of belief structures I was holding, as well as feelings that were coming up that were not arising when it was my individual dark night of the soul.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that has been very interesting. It just has been another experience of the dark night because of what the relationship has brought up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Number 7.
So number 7.
So you may experience a sense that you're living in a dream, or that things aren't real. You can also experience an effect that feels like you're observing yourself living out this dream world, that it's not really real and that you're not really here. You're just sort of watching, stuff like that. That's I think they call it, what did they call it? Depersonalization?
Depersonalization, derealization
disorder. So yeah, if you go to a therapist or a psychiatrist, they may mention that diagnosis, or it depends on how consistent it is, I think, for the diagnosis to take an effect. But
yeah, there are certain parameters.
Yeah, basically, it's just this sense that this is not real. It's a bit of a dream, and I'm watching the dream. You could have that experience, or you could have the sense of seeing yourself acting in a dream, or you could have both, or you may have none of those. But it does happen enough that it's worth mentioning. And what this is, I mean, what I believe this is, in my experience, is, and because that is more closely true with what's happening here. The reality is a projection of our mind into light formed into matter, and or what we would call matter, I guess. And it's a sort of a hologram of mind, of our collective mind, not just this earth, but all of the universe. So it's more accurate that we're actually a consciousness that's supplying energy to and observing a thought construct that walks around and does stuff. That's more accurately what's occurring. We are not the body. We're the awareness observing the body, and that realization is what these hints are. That's why these are occurring, because it's the inner knowing that, oh, I'm not doing anything. I'm not here, actually. I'm just watching. And that perspective can be very destabilizing for the individual in their psychology. And it was for me. Really was for me when I started to experience that a lot. And now I experience most of it like that. And the key for it, I think, I just want to share is balancing and thinking it more. Aaron Abke once said it's like walking a dog. And I think I've said this on the channel before, but I'll say it again anyways. It's more like walking the dog. The dog does what the dog does, right? But then we respond lovingly to the situation. So if the dog takes a dump on the neighbor's lawn, you get your bag and you clean it up and you continue with the walk, right? But if the dog tries to run into traffic, you kind of maybe rein it in a little. So you have some sort of say in what's occurring, but at the same time, you know that it's more like you're just observing the dog do as the dog does. And
so in that metaphor, the human is the dog.
Yeah, but the metaphor isn't super great, because the human to pet relationship, there's a hierarchy to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
In the higher self to human, lower self relationship, there's no hierarchy. There's equality. Yeah. They're seen as a partner that is that could be called a student. right? But the higher self is also learning from the student. So there's learn, teaching, teach, learning occurring.
Yeah.
And yeah.
And I just want to share that I haven't yet had the experience of feeling like I was observing myself from outside, but I have had a lot the experience of feeling like this is not real. What felt really real and stable and normal, it doesn't feel like that.
Yeah.
And I haven't gotten to the place where you are, where that's your normal perspective. Maybe partly because I think I've resisted that feeling. It's felt so uncomfortable. It has made me wonder if I'm crazy. Of any of these topics that we've talked about, that one has probably been the most challenging for me, because it has really made me question my sanity at times. And I didn't even know how to, I've never talked about it with anyone but you, because it seems so weird. And I didn't think.
Yeah, it is weird. It is weird. And if you say it to people that aren't, understanding, and if you seem imbalanced to them at the time you say it, then, you could run into a whole bunch of weird situations.
And for instance, I had like custody issues around things of sharing some of my spiritual experiences that I was having. So I think I'm just wary of talking about these things. But it's interesting that you said that that's now where you are. And I wonder if I can accept that feeling more, if then I would also be more in that space. But I think right now I have resisted it.
Yeah, the ego, so the ego doesn't like to let go of the identity with the body, right? So the ego believes that we're the body here and we choose and do the things.
Yes.
That's how the ego frames reality. And so
just the known in general, the ego does not want to let go of the known, the familiar, even if it's not ideal, it's still, it's known. It's not uncertain.
So we'll have all this resistance come up around it, because we fear that if we let go of our identity, then we aren't here. We're not, like, we're dead, basically. No one's here to do anything. And therefore we're gone, or, where are we? Nothing that I ever want happens. And, we wonder about those things. But yeah, so the more we let go of identity, the more we can sit in that perspective comfortably. And it's sitting with identity, but also in that perspective that
and to me,
causes.
I think what feels most uncomfortable is not so much letting go of the egoic identity, but letting go of what I thought reality was.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm still wrapping my head around what it seems reality is. It seems very mysterious still to me.
I think it always will. I think it'll seem mysterious until the end of seventh density.
Okay. Yeah. So I think I feel there's a part of me that feels frightened of if what I thought isn't reality. Oh my gosh, well, what is reality? And it makes me just feel a little crazy.
Yeah, part of it is in my experience to accept that we don't know, and we're not going to know every single thing, that we're in a place that's meant to be confused. We're in a place that is designed to facilitate the choice between separation or unity, fear and love.
And it's not about understanding in this density.
Yeah, service to self or service to others. That's what we're here to do. And so the environment is particularly constructed to facilitate confusion in that way.
And at the same time, we've been, I feel, in Western society, socialized to believe, we're a science-based culture and things are knowable, and this is the way things are, and linear, and so it's going against all of that, which in a way feels safe, like, oh, it's knowable, and
that's that's why we
Yeah.
tied ourselves to it so much, because we can
That's why
observe
we
it.
created it like that.
Yeah, we can observe it. There's evidence.
Secure to the ego.
Exactly. Yeah, we can touch the results and feel them and see them and stuff. So,
and to me, this also just is isomorphic to the entire journey that we're on. That the entire journey is unknowable.
Yeah.
And that can feel very uncomfortable.
Yeah,
human.
Ra says, and Kaz says this as well, is that the creation begins and ends in mystery. So
I love that. Yeah.
Basically, just accepting that we know a bunch of stuff, but we basically don't know anything, and we never will know fully until we know ourselves as creator in fullness, which will then start a new universe and build on our experience again.
So if here I feel I can make a little delineation that before I started awakening, I felt I kind of knew what was going on in life and the way things worked from all this programming we're talking about. And I did not know myself. And I would say now, during this period of awakening, it's flip-flopped. I feel more confused about reality and what is really happening. I guess I'm in a liminal period between what I was programmed and then this mystery in a way of how the universe is actually operating. But at the same time, I know myself now much more profoundly. And I feel that seems like a big foundation of this journey is, okay, there may be a lot of mysteries out there, but I can connect with myself, my feelings, my passions, my guidance, and that becomes the grounding. That becomes the safe place. And everything else, I really don't.
And without all the difficult experience of the dark night of the soul and all those periods of thinking you're crazy and all the stuff that happened during the awakening, that all is what led to these realizations and the knowledge of self. And now that's the more we know ourselves, the better we can move forward with faith and trust in ourselves, right? So it makes everything further so much easier, and so we can like look back at all of this stuff and be thankful. And the only reason I say that is because if somebody's in that stage right now and watching, it can feel like you won't get out of it, and you will get out, but it really is dependent on how much you allow yourself to feel your feelings and how much insight you try to glean from that. It's really a self-driven healing process.
Yes, just really nurturing your own sovereignty in all aspects.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, number 8. Is it my turn?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. So we want to talk about here for sign number 8, this burgeoning, arising sense, awareness of, I really want to do something meaningful with my life. Something that feels purposeful and in alignment and is not just like a job where I go and I receive an income, something that lights me on fire, something where I get a screaming yes inside of my being. And not just about what I'm doing, but the relationships I have, how I spend my time, just this real, I guess can kind of feel like this switch from living more in the material world to living more in a world of meaning and purpose.
Yeah. You may feel even like, depending on how your awakening went, you may even feel called to do some type of thing. You may even get specifics on little bits of it, and it may make no sense at all at the time, and you don't really believe it or whatever. That's what happened to me anyway, at a period. And Yeah, I would like to say that the calling or the wanting to be meaningful, what the word meaningful means something different for everyone, and what each person perceives as meaningful stuff is different. So basically, you are the compass for what meaningful means. So when
Yes.
we say meaningful, we don't mean necessarily you have to go be a go volunteer at a homeless shelter. That would be meaningful. I would say that's meaningful work, but there are people that would feel more meaningful work is something else.
It could be you want to paint. It could be you want to dance. It could
Could
be
be
an
anything.
expression.
Yeah,
Yeah, it could be anything.
yeah,
And then I want to piggyback onto this point that you may also feel this like underlying sense of like faith and hope that this path is leading to something really amazing. Um, Almost like you have angels whispering in your ear that stay on your path, keep feeling your feelings, keep going within. Uh, there's a pot of gold on the other side of this journey. Just tuning into that underlying compass of faith and hope that is present within your being.
yeah. It is
Like,
there. Sometimes it's hard to feel it, but try to energize that and remind yourself that like this too shall pass. I used to say to myself all the time,
yes.
this too shall pass. Everything's impermanent. There are
Yeah.
cycles, and you will look back on the experience with gratitude eventually. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Uh, Number 9.
Oh, synchronicities. Um, so I like how we summarized this. We said that this is your consciousness seeking ways to affirm for itself that it's on the right path. Um, I like that description of it. The important thing about synchronicities I'd like to share is that um, when we see them, we can often wonder if they are synchronicities or not, um, or is it just coincidence? And so I'll just say that there is no coincidence. There's no such thing as coincidence in the universe. There's no mistake. There are no mistakes. Um, so what that means is that if you perceive it to be a synchronicity or sign, it has some meaning to you. That means you are being offered catalyst by spirit with that sign. There is an opportunity to see something there. Otherwise, you would not consider whether or not it is a synchronicity. So you can have synchronicities in all forms and features. The shadows, the clouds, numbers, patterns, symbols,
License.
songs,
Yeah.
speech,
Signs. Yeah.
yeah, street signs, whatever, right? Um, like you could feel this deep calling within to, I'm gonna move to California, and then you just start seeing California license plates all over the place or something. Who knows? Uh, yeah, so these signs, yeah, they start to pop up, and a lot of times they start with the clock at 11:11, 3:33, 2:22, etc. And all of these signs have different meanings, and if you have no concept of it in yourself, it's a good idea to look up, I think, what the generic meaning for these signs tends to be agreed upon to be. But what I'd say is let your own discernment form your belief around what the sign means. The more accurately you're aligned with your own internal system, what I've experienced is the more signs and synchronicities you have, because sort of like there builds this trust in the self of paying attention to them, and so you start to get more of them because you enjoy them and call for more, and so you start to have a whole bunch of them happening as you get more and more versed in it. Um, and
And
but
and
yeah,
what you're saying is that the synchronicities are the way our own consciousness is asking, affirming that we're on the right path in our journey.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Where spirit is never giving us warning,
Right.
doom and gloom.
Yeah.
Not at least not our higher self. It's never giving that information to us. Anything like that is coming from negative belief structure and things like that. So people will see signs often and take it as a negative sign.
Mm-hmm.
And generally speaking, that practice will still result in the right thing. But it wasn't a sign from spirit, it was a sign from fear.
It was your own fear being shown to you.
Being projected, right.
Internally.
Yeah, and then you see evidence of your fear, and then, so it's not a sign from spirit. Spirit's not gonna come into your world and say, ooh, be scared. Don't go that way. They won't do that, ever. So, generally speaking, they won't really comment or have an opinion on anything, beyond affirming for you positive opinions or thoughts that you can help, that help to empower and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So they'll do that, but they won't tend to at least and I'm not trying to say, people will have experience and say this is my guides, and it'll be negatively oriented, and so I'm just sharing my perspective, and that may trigger some people, because a lot of people do believe that their guides warn them of things and things like that, and perhaps there are cases where that is the case somehow. I guess it doesn't resonate for me. It doesn't align with my understanding of metaphysics. So, I think that's just confusion. But I used to think that too. Like maybe a year ago, I would take signs as warnings of things and stuff, and I basically fabricated a warning system that and I realized it was confused eventually. Yeah.
All right. Awesome. So we have one final sign of spiritual awakening. Do I say it?
Yeah, I think so. You were doing even numbers.
Okay. So this is, you may really start to experience some of your more interesting gifts coming in. This could be more sensitivity around energy. You might go to different places and be more aware of, wow, I can sense some certain energies here that are different from this other place, or energies in people. You may open up your psychic abilities, telepathic abilities, and you may also question all of this. You may wonder, is this really real? Do I have these gifts? And again, it feels like this is part of that process of trusting ourselves and just really embracing what's happening. And I know for me, and you said this too, I didn't necessarily believe in any of these things before my awakening, that they were real, that psychic abilities were real, or feeling energy was real, or telepathy, all that. So again, I guess it's this letting go of that old programming and being open to that this can happen. And one of the mantras I often say, for instance, when I go into the Akashic records or any type of channeling I might be doing, it's just this phrase that it's, I believe, I'm willing to receive. And it just helps me, because there is sometimes that little part of my egoic mind that's like, this isn't real, or
Yeah.
and then I'm blocking what could be coming in. So that little mantra helps me.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think, and something important as well that I would say is your framing of reality will usually get questioned to the correct degree for the person. So for me, like I had to hear about the concept of like empath and read into that and learn of mirror neurons, and then look into how that likely took effect to understand that, oh, there are fields of energy that are interacting, and there's no time between.
Yes.
So, oh, okay, so there's a unification.
Yeah. So
I started
seeing
to
it from like a scientific, rational
yeah, I had
helped you. Yeah.
helped me to just see that it's not so woo woo. It's not
so woo-woo.
it's
Yes.
you know, there is some valid science here
Explanations. Yes.
that indicates that we have energy fields, that
Yes.
when we walk into proximity with each other, or if we're
Yes.
distanced from each other, we can still interact with each other's energy fields.
Yes.
There's a whole bunch of research around these things.
Yes.
And mirror neurons. So that helped me to understand, okay, I am empathic. That's what I've been noticing, is my capacity to like observe and sort of analyze well where people are at and what they're doing, and
Yes.
some of their
Yes.
intentions is not so much psychic. I didn't think of it at the time. I just thought of it as like intuitive empathy.
Yes.
And so once I understood that allowed me the space to make the next jump. So the reason I say that is it's sort of perfect for, you know, your evolution, or your whatever pace you have set for yourself will end up, you know, expanding at the right rate.
I often notice that when it seems I really click into, oh, this really can happen, that I may start to experience it myself. So an example of this is channeling.
Yeah.
So as people on this channel most likely know, Sean channels Ka, and it's just so amazing. And so to know you and know about the channeling and to really see it as real, activated something in me. It clicked my belief into, okay, yes, this is real, this can happen. And I think that really contributed to me starting to channel myself.
Yeah.
But I couldn't, it wasn't going to show up until the belief was there.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's we usually we build our belief structures usually on evidence informing our belief.
Yes.
And
yes.
what we're trying to do is switch that and have faith form our belief.
Yes.
And so we trust and have faith, and then the belief is that, you know, that's fine, and that it's real and stuff like that. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what I was trying to say there. I don't know if that made sense or not, but
yeah. That instead of looking for the evidence and then that creating the belief, we can have faith and then we're really creating the belief.
yeah, we see evidence after we hold the belief.
Yes.
So we can't see evidence of a belief we're still questioning a ton.
Yeah.
Because we don't believe it. So we're not going to see it, basically. Yes. That's why if like flying saucers were to just fly around the whole earth and everyone could see them, there'd still be people going, that's not real.
Yeah.
You know, and stuff. And,
yeah,
you know, it's also possible that it's not real. There's all that, you know, who knows. But, yeah, so whatever our belief is, that's what we'll see evidence of. So we have to change the belief.
Yes.
It's hard. We have to understand that we have to change it without evidence.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So those are the 10 signs that we wanted to talk about of awakening. And I just am curious, are there any questions from the chat, or?
I don't see any questions, no. Okay. So I think we're good. But if you guys do have any questions, definitely leave them in the comments. We check it out. both of us tend to be in there and responding to people and stuff like that. And we hope this was helpful. It was fun.
And we would love if you wanted to comment on any things that you are experiencing in your awakening, things we've mentioned, things we haven't mentioned,
or other topics you might want us to talk about as well. And other than that, if you like it, consider subscribing.
Oh yes, please.
We realize I don't think we've really ever said that, and I think that's what you're supposed to do on YouTube, right?
I think when we start, maybe we should say that when we end. If you liked this video, consider liking it, and if you want to subscribe, that would be awesome.
So we try to do this daily, and we've been doing good. This is fourth.
We've been doing good. This is our fourth
in a row
show. After our little hiatus.
Yeah. Alrighty.
Awesome. So much love to everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Thank you, everyone.